Okay.
Awesome.
It's going.
Ready to go here, bro?
Yeah, man. Ready to go. What's going on? What's going on?
I'll tell you what. The we're still in COVID, and
That's true. We are still in COVID.
Yeah. Well, just in case someone listens to this and it's 3 years down the road,
True.
right? This is
Yeah.
I want to put some perspective to it. So it's still in COVID. So we've been at this for over a year now, and I was talking to one of my friends who has a son that plays on the U.S. national team on the under 17, under 18, whatever it is, development program. And so I asked him last night. I said, "How's Cutter doing?" And he said, "Oh, had this many games. There's a couple breaks and stuff like that." But he goes, "It's been pretty good. Can't complain." He goes, "You guys?" And I said, "Oh man, it's a year now." So obviously we were actually fortunate. I just got off the phone. You were just walked in. I was on the phone with someone from out of town, and they said, "Can we get him into your program somehow?" And I said, "Yeah, but I don't know when we can, and I'll do anything I can for you." But I'll tell you, the difference now is the kids just want to play hockey. It's been a year, but we were fortunate because we have access to the ice here, and we've been in and out of the zones, and we've been able to play around with getting ice and getting games. So we've had scouts come out, and the kids have had not real games with their teams, but they've been able to play games. So we've given them some little bit of a break.
Yeah, just like inter squad type stuff.
Yeah. When scouts have been out and all that stuff, and they've got good coaching. We ran it like a camp and a team, and we tried to make it as best we can for them. But I'll tell you right now, so we've had that. We've been at it back on the ice for what now, 2 months?
Yeah.
And we had 3 weeks where we could play games on the weekends, which was great for the kids. And then it was taken away again. So we're back into the zone where they can only practice again. So that's going to be, another month or two?
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah.
It's going to be at least that.
Yeah.
And I'm just during the season, kids look forward to coming out to do a skills session once or twice a week. They can't wait to do it. But I can see it with them. It's more skating, more I just want to play hockey. Mm-hmm. And even for a coach, I could come up with drills, and I've got a million drills that I can do, but it's getting taxing because now you're getting the same kids, like a group of 10, 3, some guys 5 times a week. Yeah. And it's you're trying to keep it fresh for them and stuff, and we do, but it's they just want to play a game. Yeah. It's emotionally tough.
Well, yeah, it's frustrating too because there isn't, and this isn't I'm not talking about, what the correct COVID policy. I don't care about any of that. I'm just talking about for hockey. It's frustrating that there isn't one completely uniform decision on what should be done.
Yeah.
So you look at some places you're talking to your buddy in the US, and they get to play. Yeah. And they get to do stuff. Or other places in Canada, they get to play, they get to do stuff, right? Yeah. So it's frustrating when you know that other places who don't seem to be, I could be wrong, but don't seem to be any worse off in terms of what the ramifications are with what's going on.
Yeah.
They get to play, we don't get to play, and it's just the different policies that people are implementing. That's what gets the most frustrating because the kids they're not playing hockey to practice. Yeah. They want to play. They want to play and have fun and play games. And other people and other activities that they have in their life, or just us with work, you just want to be able to do the thing that you're trying to do.
Yeah,
and that's it. And when there's not something that seems to be completely agreed upon and what the right thing to do is, that's what makes it, at least from my end, that's what makes it the most frustrating to see when it's there's so many differing opinions, and we just don't get to be in one of the areas that they're allowed to do some stuff, which kind of sucks.
It's brutal.
But for the kids, man, it's holy cow.
It's so bad. So Charlie's going this week he got invited to go to play a game because there's a zone where they're allowed to play games with full body checking and stuff. He's so excited. Yeah. And there's other kids that they're just not going to get that opportunity. Yeah. And there'll be a lot of scouts there. So it's a little different pressure. You got maybe it's the last time you get to play. Yeah. This year. I don't know. Yeah. And on the side note, not just the kids, and not just for my business and stuff, the scouts, honestly, what do they do? There's going to kids drafted this year that maybe went in the first or second round that maybe they shouldn't have, and maybe they're going by, you saw them a couple of times, you like them, or kids get drafted in the 5th, 6th, 7th round, and they're actually a first or second round pick. But hey, you know what? At the end of the day, the strong will survive. Strong will survive. And the best players will be the best players at the end of the day. It's just not the same as it has been in the past.
Yeah. Well, the thing I keep saying to the kids is the having the ability to zoom out and look at it in more of like the greater scheme, which is especially tough when you're a kid. Like you don't have a lot of perspective, but realizing that in a year or 2 years or whatever, when you look back, we've said this before, it'll just be a blip. Everything will be back on the track that it seemed like it was going to be on, I would assume. Yeah. And then it's not really going to matter so much, right? But there's just mentally trying to relay that message to the kids, like, hey, you're still putting in work for a reason. There's still a purpose to what you're doing. Yep. And all that. That's tough for a 15-year-old to do for a year. Yeah. You know?
Speaking of that, just staying focused, it was interesting because Charlie shared with me, well, it's not like news, 15, 16-year-old kids. We had a good talk the other day about he got invited to a party. And he said no because I've got hockey and all this stuff, and so the guys were sending him Snapchats, and they're getting all drinking and they're all hammered, and they're same age as Charlie. So we had a good conversation about it, and I said, see why it was even a few months ago. There's a handful of kids that are his friends from school that he grew up with that he really, really likes, and but I told him, I said, there's a difference now, Charlie. I said, because these kids can, like, if they were to have a sleepover or come over to our house, they're expecting to stay up till 2 a.m. and stay up late and just piss around because there's nothing for them to look forward to the next day. Yeah. And so this weekend when it happened, he was he was telling me about, the kids and what they were doing and stuff. And I said, there's no reason why, like, they have nothing to keep them in the line. So, like, if the parents maybe more would understand this than the kids, but that's why you want to keep this hockey really serious. Like, keep it as serious as long as you can, because you always have something to parent around or even coach around. Like, it's huge, man. Like, I can literally tell my son when he gets invited to these parties, I go straight to the hockey. I go, okay, so what's your goals again? And I don't have an issue with them at all, but there's a lot of kids that they're dabbling because the COVID's going on. They're getting at the age where, oh, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was, or maybe even contemplating not being a hockey player anymore, even though they're 15. And it's like, well, if I go out and have some beers with my friends, I mean, like, that's what we do at this age. But with my son, it's a hell of a lot easier. I'm not saying that he'll never do it, but it's a heck of a lot easier because he's got a goal. He's got to wake up on tomorrow morning and perform somehow.
Yeah, well, but I don't even think it's that, because a lot of kids that are in maybe not in as fortunate a position as Charlie, they could be equally as focused, right? They could still do, right? But for the most part, you just start to feel the social pressure. Yeah. And if you don't have a guiding like for me, it comes down to parenting. Like, that's what it is, right? Yeah. Because you could you see it all the time, kids that are really good, and they still get sucked into the social pressure. Right?
Well, yeah, that's so for sure. It's your talks at home.
Exactly, right? So for somebody who's maybe in an equal position to Charlie in terms of opportunity, they maybe don't have a good guiding force that's keeping them on the path, right? Yeah. And so they could be just as good or better. Yeah. And they are going to miss that opportunity, get sucked into the shit because they don't have somebody that's trying to keep them on the tracks, or they don't have somebody who taught them that was important for the last 4 years. Yeah. And now that they're getting to the point where that pressure is going to come in, it's really easy to succumb to those types of influences, right? Because it's everywhere and it's going to stay everywhere. Yeah. And it doesn't it just gets more, right? Like, that pressure just gets heavier and heavier. So if you don't have a really strong driver to keep you in the lines with that kind of stuff, it's really, really easy to get sucked in. It doesn't matter if you're good or not good. Yeah. If you just don't have a driver. And the other thing with the friends, they don't have a goal or something that is a consequence for their behavior. Yeah,
that's basically what I'm saying.
Yeah, so they go, if you stay up on Friday night and go eat a pizza and walk around the city for till 3 a.m, drinking a Monster, and then go to bed and get up whenever, and there's no real consequence to you. Yeah. There is actually, but you can't.
It's not anything tangible necessarily.
Right, it's not anything more immediate. Yeah. Right. Whereas like if you have a practice the next day or a workout the next day, that's immediate. Yeah. If you made a mistake the night before, you're feeling it the next day. Yeah. If you'd make consistently bad life choices when you're 15, or whatever a bad choice, however you want to define that, if you make those decisions, you don't see it on the day to day. You'll see it in 5 years when you didn't get into the university you wanted to go to because you don't have good habits. Like that's more what the difference is. They can afford to get away with, or they think they can afford to get away with it more now. Yeah. And it's not that you can never go out and have fun with your friends. That's obviously not what I'm saying. Yeah. I'm just saying that consistency of not having good habits, not having something that keeps you accountable, you don't develop those skills. Yeah. Right.
Well, it just makes me think, hockey saved my life. Hockey saved my life. It was everything to me, and it kept me on track. And as a parent, it saved me. Not saved me from being a bad parent, but it gave me the tools that I could use to be a good parent. And it's made. You always be careful when you say this because things can go sideways anytime. But it's so far has made parenting simple. Like because he wants this. Well, in order to get this, you have to have that. Yeah. If you don't want that, then well,
you have a vehicle, right? Like that's the thing that I always that's what I always stress about is like you have something that you can frame all of these lessons in. That's what hockey is. Yeah. That's what it can be. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And that's what happened for me. It was the same thing for me. My parents always relayed everything through the context of the thing that I was saying I wanted to do. Yeah. And for other kids don't have that. They don't have the thing that is going to keep, that is driving them enough to keep them on track with what they're trying to do,
Yeah. And it's but you were 100% right. Without being a dad or a parent is those my wife and I were talking about it last night, how we've had really, really honest conversations with Charlie about kind of everything. And I think a lot of people would think that we cross the line on some things because it's like, if Charlie asked me a question about life, anything in life, I will tell him because I think it's the right. He has context that Dad made a mistake too, because he asked me about drinking. He goes, "Did you drink when you were?" And there was another Seabass was in the car with us because we were talking about it together. And I asked him, I said, "You guys been drinking at all?" Like, because I'm pretty sure, like maybe they snuck one here and there, but Seabass goes, "No." He goes, "I don't like. I'm not even interested." And Charlie was like the same thing we see them every day, like they're home but they're with us. Yeah. So I forget where I was going with that, but they asked me about me, and I said, "Guys, I got to be honest with you. I did this with our two older kids. You did it when you were a kid." I go, "Honestly, I couldn't go out and do that because I had, we had games Friday night, like when I played, especially playing junior. I had a game Friday night, Saturday, Sunday usually." Practice, we had curfews, and hockey kept me in line. So I didn't have a chance to do that. I spent my time being an idiot when I was done playing hockey, and I only did that for a short period of time because it wasn't rewarding. It was like, this is kind of dumb. Yeah. I did more as an adult, having a few beers here and there and getting a little not out of hand, just nothing crazy, but hockey saved my life, man. It really literally saved my life. So my point was, I'm always honest with him. I said, I did it this time, and I said it was stupid, and gave him the facts. And I said, like, listen, you're gonna make mistakes. Trust me, you're gonna screw up. You're my perfect little boy. It won't be perfect one day. Yeah. But anyways, it keeps it in the line, and it's saved my life, and it continues to.
Well, and I think that's huge for parents too. The honesty thing. Yeah. That's so huge, man, because the kids they're looking for something to try, and kids aren't stupid, man. Like they're inexperienced, and they don't have a lot of knowledge on things yet, but they're not stupid. No. So if you're a parent and you're bullshitting your kid, they can tell you're bullshitting. 1,000%. They're not right. So, and even in that kind of the way you're framing that, even if you don't say, "Hey, yeah, I went and I drank a bit and it was stupid," even if you don't say that, even you said, "Yeah, I went and I did that and it caused me this problem."
Yep. Yeah, and that's basically the road we go down.
Yeah, right. So you're not throwing like the "Oh, you can never go and do this because it's bad." Yeah. It's like, no, you can make a choice to do what you want, but you have to live with what the consequences are. And if you choose to do this thing more times than you should be, then that's going to have ramifications. And do you want to deal with that or not? Yeah. And that's a good way of framing it. When you're a parent, that was something that my parents were pretty good at having like good conversations with me, but we never really got into like the deep like life things that were like a little taboo to talk about with your parents, maybe. Yeah. Like I didn't really talk to them about that much. I had to find it in other places. Yeah. And kind of discover some of those things on my own. Yeah. But they were really good about talking to me along the same lines and giving me those, well, like, what are your goals? Like, what are you trying to do? Does this make sense with that? Is that something that, and then, me trying to take some of that, take some of those lessons a few steps further when it came to those things that were a little bit heavier pressures when I got older, made it a lot easier. So if you're a parent and you can lay that foundation, having those conversations, I think that's really valuable for your kids once they start to get to social age, let's say.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, that's that.
Yeah, it's good.
It was something.
No, something.
Right? It's not nothing. Yeah. I brought up Aaron Ekblad. So this is what month are we in? March of 2021. So Aaron Ekblad got hurt the other night. So he sent me a picture of his operation on his. I thought it was his knee. So if this is old news for someone, so Aaron got. He's having a career year too. Like his name is in the Norris Trophy. He's scoring. He's having actually a really good year. He's getting 28 minutes a night, like just playing a ton. But anyways, he's producing and it's great. So the other night 2 nights ago he got hit and landed weird and he went down in pain. It was like, it's weird to see. It was kind of eerie, but I thought it was his knee, and it looks like it's connected to his knee. I didn't. So anyways, he sent me a photo. Like I'm so prim and proper. A photograph. He sent me a picture of his X-ray or the final product of his surgery the other night, and he said, I just kind of woke up. I'm able to get to my phone, and he sent me that picture. So there's 4 screws in his leg, and he's going to be out for the rest of the season for sure, which is unfortunate for him. But I wanted to ask if it was in the knee or the leg, but it turned out to be the leg, close to the knee, whatever. But anyways, this is going to be a test. So for Aaron, in my opinion, from everything I know with him, it might be his first real battle. And maybe
didn't he have a decent concussion that he had to deal with a couple years ago, or was that not that big of a thing?
I don't think it was the end of the world. Like it was one. Everyone gets them more or less, but he did. Yeah, he did.
Was he out? He was out for a while.
Yeah, he had a concussion. Yeah.
So maybe
but it's not really public, so I don't really want to say too much about it. He dealt with it a little bit.
Yeah, but it wasn't like this is a body this is a body problem. Like you need to rehab this.
Like Dalton said, because if it was the knee. It's like now you're going to have to find out if you have what it takes, because like George St. Pierre said when he blew his ACL out, it was like literally 1 year of rehab every single day. Yeah. That's different than playing the grind of hockey.
Right.
That's going to a doctor and sitting there and bending your knee and and just doing all the little things that just tedious, and this will be a test for him. Yeah. And then do you trust it after? So that's
a good point too. Even like psychologically, because I've known that I've had a few I've never had any real huge injuries where I was out for a really long time or anything, fortunately. Yeah. But even something like I hurt my last year playing. I had a knee injury, and it was a pain in the ass, and not even that it was that bad of an injury, but it was like a little bit nagging. Yeah. So then it was like always in my head. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So it was like I'm always thinking about I'm always thinking about I go into this corner.
I know.
Right. And even if it's not at the forefront, it's always like subconscious, like in the back of your mind, like, man, this knee is not good. Right.
Yeah. Psychologically, it's tough to deal with. It's a tough thing when you know that you're actually hurt yourself. Yeah. So that's good. And that brings me, I'm going to talk about one of my injuries. I got a couple funny stories to go with, but it goes back to what I say to the kids every day. And I literally tell this to the kids every day, even if it's a skills session. I said it yesterday to the kids. I said, come here with some energy, and what if this is your last time on the ice? Yeah. Because people say, let's go back to Aaron. So Aaron's on his second contract, and it's $60-some million. So Aaron, if this was to be a career ender, he's financially okay. He's gonna still get his $60 million. But if it was the first year of his contract, or before he got drafted, or
in his entry level,
or some, if that's a whole different story, right? So financially he'll be good and all that stuff. But yeah, what if it was your last game? I coached with a guy named Pat Peak, and he broke both his ankles going in for an icing call, and he was a superstar. He was coming in the NHL as a superstar, and it was a career ender. And we always used to talk to the kids about that. It's like, you do not know when it's going to be your last game. Yeah. It could be this COVID that, ends your hockey. It's the time you could just end your hockey. A lot of careers have ended because of this thing. You're just too old, too slow. You got out of shape. You didn't take care of yourself, whatever.
That's such a hard message to get across too.
It is, but if you can just play like it's your last time, like every shift, every practice, because it actually could be. Mm-hmm. And when it comes, it's sad. It's because it's something that you put everything into and you love it so much. And if it's a career ender, oh my God, it's awful.
And that's why, because it's such a hard thing it's so easy to take for granted. Like we were talking about last week or the week before, how quick the guys settled back into we're back on the ice now. Yeah. And they lost that little bit of little bit of juice they had when they first got back on, because it's so easy to take for granted. That's why I'm such a big fan of writing things down. Just like taking a minute to just draw your attention to something in particular, whether it's that gratitude thing we talked about, or another thing that I'm thinking of starting to do is setting like an intention in the morning. Like when I first write out my workout and my plan for the day, what I'm doing, just writing like something I want to focus on today, whether being a really good trainer or managing my time really well, or just like something intentional for the day. It's just such a good thing that draws your attention to it. Just for at least for a few minutes, right? Brings it back to the front of your minds to keep it in your head, because it's so easy to just get, back into the flow and then to take for granted what you have.
You get what you aim at, right? Like exactly. Jordan Peterson says, you get what you aim at, or you. Well, how does he say it? It's not exactly those words.
Well, you can miss, but you're close. You have to aim at something. Otherwise, you don't know where you're going. Right. So you aim at something, and even if you miss, you'll be closer than not aiming at it. Right. Yeah.
So that I think a lot of times goals are when there's whole seminars on goal setting and stuff like that, and it's overwhelming sometimes, or it's almost a lot of fluff. But the bottom line is, if you can pick, like Charles Poliquin, the best trainer in the world, talks about goal setting. He says you should never have more than 3, because again, the term that he uses and I use is you have 2. You have one ass, you can't ride 2 horses. So if you have 2, so if you have 10 different goals that you're looking at, you can't focus on any. So he says you narrow it down to 3. So by writing, like what you're saying of doing is writing down 1 or 2 or 3 things a day that you want to accomplish. That's a goal. You get your long term, short term, and you can focus on it.
It's funny. Just one more thing on that. This is another Jordan Peterson thing. He was talking about. He worked for like the UN or something, and they were trying to come up with a country. They were trying to come up with like what their goals were for the next however many. I could be butchering this, but this was the idea. They came up with this list, and they had like 100 goals on it, right? And you can't. How do you rank order 100 things? You can't. No. If all of the things are equally important, they can't be. First of all, but if they are, how are you supposed to attack that? Your resources are going to be spread so thin that you're not going to be able to hit any of them, right? So you make almost no progress towards all of them, or a little bit of progress towards some of them, or a lot of progress towards a few of them. And that's what the idea is, right? Like you set, and we talked about like the low hanging fruit thing before. Like you set your goal something close that you can get, and then you can keep moving on, right? So with the intention thing, it's just that constant reminder, whether it's the intention in the morning or like the gratitude at night, just bring it to the forefront so you can appreciate like what actually you have going on, so that if it ends up being an injury or something like that, then at least you can walk away if you have to, or if you're forced out of it, you know that you did everything you could do. And then you don't have to look back with regrets and all this kind of stuff that affects you later in your life mentally,
to say I did my best. I did my best. And if you're best, and Dalton a couple years ago when he was in Calgary, Dalton Prout, we were talking one day, and when again, I think I've said this before, but when the guys go away, I don't text them every day, like, because then you're just a pain in the ass jock sniffer. I care about them, but I mean,
they're doing their thing.
They got a life. Thing. Yeah. You don't want to be a distraction, but I could sense that he was in Calgary, and he wasn't getting the shifts, and he was missing, getting scratched a little bit. So I was talking, hey, how's it going? And so he texted me and said, not good, like not good. He goes, I don't know, Andy. I don't feel like maybe I don't even belong in the NHL anymore. And so I text back and I said, no, they signed you for a reason, and and you are an NHL hockey player, and you're going through some shit. And I said, at the end of the day, bud, like seriously, at the end of the day, you got there, you know what it takes to stay there, and just give it everything you got. Play like it's your last day. I probably said that, but I don't know if I said that, but I said, give it everything you got. And at the end of the day, if you're just not good enough anymore, then you're just not good enough. But you could say that I gave everything I possibly had. And it is what it is. And he was like, yeah, absolutely. And he kind of felt better about it, and he was able to reattack it and got another contract. So, it works out. But yeah, you give it leave it all on the table the best that you can, right? Yeah,
and that's the biggest thing is you don't want to have that in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years where you look back and like, what if I would have I could have done this, and I knew I should have, and I didn't, right? And that's one thing that I'm proud of with myself is when I look back on how I played, I made the best decisions I could make with the information I had at the time. And some of those were wrong. Like some of those were not the correct choices. But at the time, it seemed like they were the correct choices. And so I can't do anything about that, right? Like whether if I didn't have like proper guidance or I was misinformed, which I was in a lot of ways. Yep. But at the time, I was absolutely sure I was making the right choice. And I did everything I could do. I tried to do everything I could do to make sure I was putting myself in the best position. Yeah. And it didn't work. It didn't work out. And that's what happens sometimes. But I get to look back now and say, hey, man, there was really not much else I could do.
Right. And with sometimes it just doesn't work out.
Yeah, sometimes it just doesn't work,
it's
man.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was so bitter when I looked at, when I realized that hockey was done for me. I was so bitter. And I was bitter for a couple of years.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I loved it so much. Yeah. And no different than you. But same thing. But I could honestly say I look back and I could say, no, I could have done things differently. And so I do have a little bit of regret, and I was bitter, but then it's like, you know what? Take the lessons that you learned and apply it to your craft. And that's what I try to do every day. And it's my life worked out really well. Yeah. Really well. Yeah. So, I mean, you know what? It's a choice though.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a choice.
But just circling back to keep moving forward here, that with that injury, that's what it comes down to, is you need to make sure that you're not taking what you have for granted, because you could be in the middle of a career year and then something just smacks you, and then you have to be able to bounce back, right?
Well, just the business right now, right? This year has been been brutal. Like it's crippled a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
But fortunately for us, we had a really good base. We've had integrity. That's okay, this is the place to go. Yeah. We've got a real business with a real
strong brand.
Place. It's helped. But I'll tell you, man, it was there were some days where it's like, okay, what the heck are we gonna do? Yeah. Right, but you keep fighting, so that's the most important thing.
Yeah, for sure.
But I wanted to tell you about an injury. So when I was trying out it was one of my major goals when I was I just turned, I think, 16. I was drafted. No, I wasn't drafted yet. The draft was coming the following month, and so I really messed my ankle up, like bad, to the point where I couldn't even walk. They had to at the camp, at the under 17 camp, they had to cut my skate off to get my foot out of the boot, out of the skate. Yeah. I'm trying to think of the word. Like, it's the freaking skate. It doesn't have to be complicated. And I couldn't even stand on it. But 2 weeks later was the regional camp in Kitchener, Ontario. And there was no way that I wasn't going to make this team. This was a major goal. So, and I'm actually not going to talk about the ankle injury. I got a sore ankle, and it hurt like hell, and it sidelined me for almost a year and a half. But anyways, the point was that I had I'm talking about the emotional toughness here, is that I wasn't going to let it stop me, even though I should have. And a couple years later, it got back to normal. But so anyways, the funny part of this is that I got this. I couldn't walk. So I had to go to this camp, and it's so funny. Like, my parents couldn't go. Like, because I'm looking at the reason I'm saying this is because I've just had over the years, but in the last couple of weeks, I've had a couple of people saying they want to be like, the parents saying they want their kids to be encouraged. They it feels like, not me, but like some of the kids are like, they're always telling me what I'm doing wrong, which that's what coaching is. So it's called emotional toughness. It's being able to get through it and do the task no matter what. So when I was going to this camp, and it was major goal. So I'm going, but my parents, there's no chance they can make it. And I don't know if they even thought that they should go. Like, maybe it wasn't even a thought then, but I know once I got there, every other parent was there. So anyways, how I got to Kitchener was I took a bus. So it was a 5-hour bus ride. So I had someone gave me a hockey bag and old equipment, and I was hobbling along. So I got on a bus and I went to Toronto. My uncle picked me up in a milk truck because he did. It's so funny.
Forgot about
this. Is going to the highest end camp in the world. I want a Team Canada shirt. That's what this is about. So most parents are really excited about that. And I'm sure they were, but they couldn't go. So my uncle picked me up in a milk truck. It was a bluish, purplish milk truck. So it was a milk truck, but he used it because he used to stone, on houses. Yeah. So he was really good at that. So he used it as a stone to haul his stone and cement around. So he picks me up in Toronto in this milk truck, no seat belts, and we drive to Whitby, Ontario, just like around Oshawa. So the next morning I had to get up at, I think it was 6 o'clock in the morning. And he threw, he was nuts, by the way. he goes, okay, we'll get you off to the bus station. So he throws me a mango. I never had a mango in my life. Yeah. So I ate a mango. Got me on a Greyhound bus to Kitchener. There was a Oshawa to Toronto, a bus to Kitchener. So it was at the University of Waterloo where this camp was. And I've got this little suitcase. If you ever watched, it's called Steve Martin, The Jerk. Did you ever see that movie? No. It's old. Anyways, he's got this little square suitcase. It's like Bugs Bunny movie. That was my suitcase, and I had my 3-4 hockey sticks and my purple bag. So I got off the bus station into a taxi to the University of Waterloo. And so I got out and I'm like, okay, I'm here. So now the campus, I've never been to a university in my life. Yeah. Campus is huge. Yeah. So I had to find where I signed in. So I'm looking around, like I'm walking for a long time, hobbling. So I find, there's some hockey players there with their stuff and parents and stuff. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. So I walked in, signed up, and I went through this camp, and no mom and dad around, which is no big deal. It's just like, but my point is that most people had, I realized it, but I didn't. But most people had their mom and dad to drive them and make sure they signed in and got taken care of. And did you eat properly? And can I wipe your ass and all this kind of stuff? Where I didn't have that. It was me and.
You didn't have a support structure.
Zero.
That's what we're saying here.
So then, of course, I took the bus back and all home and stuff like that, and I had to do that again for the final camp. And it was like, wow. So I was thinking about that, the injury, like I could have used it as an excuse, which I refused to. And then but the point was the emotional toughness, is that it didn't matter that I probably shouldn't have played. I made the team, by the way. It didn't matter, and it didn't matter that my mom and dad were going, hope you do well and all that stuff. It was my dream. It was my emotions. It was my life. And that was something that I wanted, and I went through it. But it was so funny because I was like sitting there. There was obviously times where I was sitting there going, I wish I could tell my mom, or I wish my mom could say, wow, you're playing really good, like really good. But I didn't have that. I was just hoping that in my head, I knew I was probably one of the best players there, but I didn't have any feedback whatsoever until they only picked, like, for the first 8, I think they picked 7 or 8 guys, and then they picked the rest of the team after, and I was one of them. So I was like, okay, I guess I did well. But I had to come all the way back home to be able to tell my mom and my dad that I was that I made the team, and they're like, oh, cool. That was pretty cool. So it was a pretty interesting situation.
Well, yeah. So I'm going to package all that up for you, because thinking from, you're talking about at the start, the kids, we get parents that talk about, like they're feeling like the environment's negative, or they feel like you're always picking on the stuff that they're not doing properly, or whatever. And then you think of a situation like that where you're going to the Team Canada tryout. This is a huge deal.
Yeah. And
you don't have one person there to say you did well.
No.
You don't have one person to pick you up if you had a bad game. You don't have one person to say, hey, if you keep playing on that ankle, it's probably going to bother you later.
Right.
Like, you didn't have any of this, none of that.
Right.
And then, today now we have these, like, the polar opposite situation where it's like, everything you do is great. Everything you do is the best. You're never doing anything wrong.
Yes.
We need to focus more on the good and less on the bad.
Yeah.
And like, there's not, I don't know that there's anything, and obviously I'm not saying you drill a kid into the ground and tell him that he sucks at everything and nothing he does is good, and that's not not how we coach. That's not how we teach, obviously. But like, kids need to know what they're not doing well in order to improve, right? And they need to be able to handle, like, honesty about that, right? And if you have an asshole coach, obviously that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not saying you need to go, hey, man, your shot is just shit. Like, you suck, man. I don't even know what to tell you. Like, that's not how you communicate the message.
It's not optimal, but it could happen. And what are you going to do if they do?
Well, and this is what I'm getting to, right? Like, the way it would be nice if every time your coach needs to tell you about something, they give you the nice compliment sandwich where, that would be great. But that's not how life is, man. Yeah. That's not how your boss is going to be at work all the time. That's not how your teacher is going to be at school. That's not how your coach is going to be. And it's not really their job. It'd be nice if they paid attention to it, but it's not really their job to make sure that your feelings aren't hurt.
Right.
And things are coming more and more to that, and it's just not real life. That's not the way real life is.
Yeah.
So these kids they're you're coming up soft as baby shit because you can't handle any kind of criticism at any sort. And the way that we communicate criticism, in my opinion, is phenomenal. Because we say it in a way where we're actually encouraging and we want them to be brought up. But you need to be able to handle that. It doesn't matter how the message is given to you. You need to be able to parse through the emotion of it and deal with what the meat is that is actually being said to you, right?
Yeah. Well, I think here's the issue, I think, anyways, is I think that even coaches that coach, I think when you watch, I guess I say it this way. A lot of times you hear parents say, oh yeah, he's really motivating. Okay, what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people that take teams, they watch movies, the Friday Night Lights or whatever, the Miracle. Okay, I'm going to use Miracle for example, because when I was coaching the States, the boys threw it on. I said, it's just propaganda. Yeah. This is bullshit. This is not how it happened. So you didn't go out, you didn't win because the coach motivated you. Yeah. The U.S. team at the time in 1980, you didn't beat the Russians because you were motivated. That's not what happened. Okay, so it's like, if something else happened, they got, 1 out of a million times it happened to work out that day. They worked hard. I give them all the credit in the world and all that stuff. That was because it wasn't because Herb Brooks was motivating. Mm-hmm. Motivation doesn't last. It's not coaching. And I think a lot of people, when they coach, they see you can do it. Let's just get at, like, if you walk into a dressing room before a game and you say, okay, guys, let's go. I believe in you. We're going to have a great game. Every one of you are the best, whatever, like rah, 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 you say a poem, and that's not anything to do with coaching.
Right.
It's actually might even be opposite of coaching. Coaching is actually taking tactics, X's and O's, or taking players and teaching them what they're doing wrong, not right. You don't, because what happens is the higher level you go, it's like if you go on a forecheck and you put in an effort that maybe it's going for an icing, and you beat the D to the puck, maybe throw a hit to do it, and you create a scoring chance. When you go to the bench, the coaches and go, "Wow, that was great! Way to go! Keep doing that." That's expected. Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do.
That's your job, actually.
Shift after shift after shift, and practice after practice. Mm-hmm. Your job is to give 100% and to do what no one else is willing to do. That's what the expectation is. So when you don't do that, that's where coaching comes in, because the other is expected. If you play in the OHL or the NHL, you're expected to be, if you're a 50-goal scorer and you put an unbelievable goal in the back of the net, that's what your job is actually. It's not.
That's why you're the 50-goal scorer.
Yeah, you don't say, oh, wow, keep doing that. Like, that's, you're awesome. No, that's what your job is, so do that. And if you're a guy that, you're the penalty killer and you block 3 shots, they don't praise you and tell you how great you are. They expect that from you. Right. That's your job.
Yeah. It's nice to be encouraged, and it's a bonus if you have a coach that does that. That's great. If you have a coach that'll come give you a pat on the ass when you do something great, and that's awesome. Like, great. That feels good. Or if you have a coach that they can say some things to you that gets you fired up, that's great. But that's a bonus. That should not be expected. Yeah. And if you're as the player, that should not, and as a parent too, actually, that shouldn't be expected that your coach is going to coddle. It's a bonus if you get it, but your kid should be able to go into that and extract out from the coach the things that are coaching, right? The coach is telling me what I'm not good at. Okay, I got to listen to that, and I need to it's on me to motivate myself to make sure I'm motivated, right? And it's one thing when the kids are really like super young and you give them a little bit of rah-rah to fire them up and whatever, that's fine. We're not saying... Oh yeah,
that's fun.
There's a place for your little motivation and whatever, but as you start to get older and this is becoming more of a, like, something you're going to pursue, which is what we're talking about, then, like you said, the motivation it's a bonus because it's going away. You need someone to fire you up every time, and you're going to come and say, oh, I'm not feeling motivated. You're mostly not going to feel motivated. Yeah. Right. You're going to have little blips of times when you're motivated, but if you're not, and then some coach comes and smacks you with, hey, you didn't get the puck out. Like, what are you doing? Yeah. And then you just crumble. And for the rest of the game, you're sitting on the bench thinking about what he said, and you can't perform now. Yeah. That's your problem.
Yeah. Well, I was in, so a couple of years ago, I went to see one of my clients. Well, I was going to Buffalo to watch. So that weekend, Mike Weber was playing. He was a D for Buffalo. And he was always bugging me, come to a game, come to a game, come to a game. So I said, you know what? There's a weekend where Zach was playing for Montreal. Adam Henrique was playing for New Jersey. I think there was one more player that I had. But anyways, they were all playing the same weekend. So I said to Webby, I'm going to come down this weekend. So we went, and they were playing Montreal the first night. Because
Cass.
Yeah, Cass. But Cass wasn't playing. He was
somewhere else.
Locked up. But anyways, Webby was playing a great game. It was just really nice to watch. You know what a great feeling is. First time I did it was Ryan Wilson when I saw him. First NHL player that I trained where I've seen them live was Ryan Wilson for Colorado. It's a really neat feeling to see your product on the ice. But anyways, Webby was playing a great game. Regular shifts, Big D, assistant captain. You know, I'm sitting there going, this is nice to see, right?
Cool.
And you should have been playing against Zach, but Zach was out that game. But on a penalty kill in the second period, I didn't even notice the play. It was like an unfortunate play. Not even unfortunate. What happened was the puck was along the wall, and there was like pressure all over the place, and he went to chip it out, and he got hemmed in, and they no scoring chance or anything, just they got hemmed in. So I was supposed to meet him after the game, and it was like an hour. So anyways, he came out and he goes, I just got reamed. I said, oh yeah, what for what? He goes, and he played a little bit in the third, but not much. He got benched. So I said, what happened? He goes, on the penalty kill, and I don't even remember the play necessarily. He's on the penalty kill, he's just reaming me because I should have had it out. And he goes, I got filmed tomorrow morning. So I said, oh, great. I said, listen, we'll let you go. We showed Charlie the dressing room and all that shit. And then we went home and had a couple Yingling. What a great beer that is.
Never heard of it.
Oh, yeah, my favorite beer.
Really?
Yeah, it's great. It's the oldest brewery in America. My favorite, yeah.
Fact book.
If I ever go there, I'll bring them back. So anyways, the next morning I met with Webby again, and he says, I might not be playing tonight. I said, for what? And he goes, that play, I just was in, Dan Bilesma was the coach, and he goes, I was in his office for an hour and a half, and he was in super slow motion telling me how I could have got the puck out. He goes, what were you thinking? What? He goes, like, it was like literally a tenth of a second. Yeah. And he gave him about all these different options. He's like, I know. And when it's in super, super slow motion, there's all kinds of time in the world. But, this is the world, though. Yeah. But so making one blunder, I think, no, he played the next night. But he didn't get a lot of ice. But that's what coaching is. Your job is to get it out.
Well, but it costs him mentally, even if he got to play, even if he gets to play the next day, right? And this is kind of the message we're trying to get across here, is that even when you're a kid and you like, I don't care what your parents say, like, oh, they're just kids. It doesn't matter, because unfortunately they're judged when they're kids. They're 15 right now. It's their draft year, right? So all these grown-ups where hockey is a business and that's where they make their money. Yeah. The coaches, the general managers, all the staff personnel, this is how they make their money, right? Yeah. This is what they do. Yeah. So they don't care that you're 15, right? And that's harsh. But too bad. If you think you want to play hockey, when mom comes knocking on the door and says, well, I think you should try to be more positive and encouraging and whatever, it's like nobody cares about that. No. And that's too bad, because it'd be nice if they did, but they don't. So now what do you do? Yeah. Because when you get to the professional level, you have to sit in your coach's room for an hour and a half while he reams you because you made a mistake. Yeah. You made a mistake. Yeah. And that happens in the game, but you're going to have to deal with that. So Mike Weber can walk out and let that crumble him and ruin the rest of his season and his life and let his confidence go down, which happens to players for sure. Yeah. But if you can develop some skills and strategies to be able to combat that. Yeah.
Right? And like Mike, to Mike's credit, because he's one of the hardest workers I've ever seen, he would take that information as a professional. Right. Understand that I got to take the emotion out of this because my job is to get the puck out. Mm-hmm. So I made a mistake. He owned it. Right. To his credit. And what would he do about that? Well, you work on that. You put him in any situation where there's pressure on the wall, whatever. I have to get the puck out. So that's my job. So he continued to work on that. Not like this is a new skill or anything, but when something needs to be addressed, you address it. That's how you become a pro.
And that's what the attitude that everyone should have, and you should start to have that as soon as you can. Because I remember I've told this story before, but when I was my first year junior, I was a point guy, didn't get a point for 12 games, and I was just sour, like no confidence, just sour ass about it, being a suck, and nobody cares. Nobody cares. No. It just affects you. Yeah. And I was fortunate that, again, my coach in junior and I had a great relationship, and he brought me in and talked to me about it. It's like, hey, if you don't figure this out and start doing something else, I'm going to scratch you.
Yeah.
And that was nice because I got to hear it, and he actually said it to me and communicated. But most of the time, you're not going to have that.
Yeah.
They're just going to scratch you, and you just have to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
So the kids, especially, and the parents on the kids' behalf, need to understand that most of the time, sometimes maybe it is, but I don't think so. It's not a personal attack.
It's not. No.
They're just saying what they think, and sometimes in the heat of the game, they're just as passionate about hockey as you are.
Yep.
So they get fired up and they yell at you because they want to win, and whatever their reason is, or if they have some ego or whatever. But it doesn't matter what the reason is.
Yeah.
Making that separation, being able to analyze what did they say, what part of it should I throw out, and what part of it should I keep to improve myself. That's an important skill to be able to have, right? Otherwise, you're just going to keep getting bogged down by. Yeah. You'll never go anywhere. You can't.
No, and like Mike did it great. He just kept working at it.
Yeah.
And the thing is like the reality is there's a whole American League team of right-handed D, or he's left-handed D that would like to take his spot.
That's a great point.
And he makes $2.5 million a year, and you need to get the puck out. That's your job. So if you and it's not like but no, there's no buts. It's get the puck out. That's your job.
Oh yeah.
So he took it and did what he had to do.
Well, and it's
one example.
Well, yeah, and that's a great example because he's at the professional level. But now especially for kids that are even in everything they're doing, whether it's on the ice, it's in the gym, whatever. Like sometimes just for the sake of the lesson, sometimes we'll be in the gym with some of the groups. And yesterday I had a kid ask me, like how many sets are we doing? And he knows how many sets we're doing. Like I've said it several times. I've said what the layout of the sets are. And they're like just asking a question to ask a question. They're just not using your brain just because sometimes you do that. Yeah. Sometimes you just ask a question instead of thinking about it. Yeah. Right?
Sure.
And right away, I just like stomped that out real quick. I'm like, you tell me how many sets we're doing. Right? And force them into that, and that's exactly what happens. They get into that, I thought this or this happened or whatever. And I'm like, I don't care. I told you how many sets. Yeah. Right?
You weren't listening.
You weren't listening. I told you. And if you were unclear, you should have asked a question. And you didn't. Right?
Or you're pretending to be interested. And if you're pretending to be interested, that doesn't help.
Exactly. And then you know exactly who it is that asked the question.
You can see it a mile away.
Yeah. And that's what I'm getting at. And they don't really, I don't think I've never really explicitly said to them, you have to learn to deal with criticism, boys. Yeah. Even though it's kind of implicit in what we're doing. Yeah. But that's a criticism I throw on them. I'm like, why aren't you listening? Yeah. Right. And again, it's, I was getting some heat online. I posted a couple clips of the podcast, and I was getting a little bit of heat about the example I gave on one of the few episodes ago about the mask thing. Talking about the kid that keeps forgetting his mask. Right. And people talking about how it's like an extreme thing, or like it's not really fair if like a kid forgets his mask, whatever. And most of them, like it was a 1-minute clip, so they didn't really get the full context. But putting all that aside, the point of it being an extreme example or something that's small and doesn't really matter that much, that's exactly the point, right? Yeah, because
for sure.
Because if you're like Mike Weber, didn't get the puck out one time, and it didn't cost them.
No.
But it doesn't matter.
No.
So he didn't get the chance to come back to the bench, and the coach said, hey, make sure you get that puck out next time. It was like, no, you're going to sit and watch this now for an hour and a half because we pay you to get the puck out in this exact situation, and you didn't do it, right? And that's this big. He made one little mistake. Yeah. That's it.
Well, it's just speaking of the mask, so to put that in context, I'm going to reel you in for a second now, instead of you reeling me.
Yeah. Sure.
No, so if someone was to say it's not a big deal, okay, it might not be, right? But this is the problem when you make excuses. It's my business, and you enforce the rules that we have to follow because it's COVID again. So people have to come in and wearing a mask. I think it's the dumbest thing in the whole world. Yeah. I do. Yeah. But that's the law. Because it was just 2 days before that the health unit came in to make sure that we were doing everything proper. Yeah. So this young feller comes in without a mask. What if he did that at the exact same time that the health unit came in? Right. It's not a big deal to him, but it would be to me. It could be a $10,000 fine.
Yeah, right. Well, and this is the other part of it too. So, like, bounce that back to Mike Weber, who thinks, man, like I just didn't get it out once. Like, what's the big deal?
Yeah, what's the big deal?
And then it's like, well, for the coach, what if they scored? Yeah. What if you didn't get it out and then they scored and then we lost, and then because we lost this game, we go on a 6-game losing streak and I get fired? Yeah. Right? Yeah. Is it that extreme? Yeah, totally.
That is that extreme.
It's an extreme example, but that is the way the thought process goes. Yeah. So for this kid that doesn't remember to bring the mask in, that's what I think of.
Well, let's take it to the military, right? So that's why I love reading about the military and the importance of it, is because there's the ultimate price to pay for mistakes. So because it never used to make sense. I'm like, why are these guys so angry? Why are they yelling about having your speck of dirt on your shoe, or your belt not shined, or your bed not made, or your because what you have to have is all your gear has to be ready to go, so that any waking, like at any moment, you have your stuff ready to go. And if you don't have that, I mean, you're in shit up to your eyeballs. But the purpose of that is that if you are in war, you're ready to go, because the ultimate price is death. Yeah, well, and I think if you can apply that to your life, like I'm not saying be military, because it kind of is extreme, but it's kind of not either. Is if you have your ducks in order, things seem to work out. And mistakes, if you can avoid them because you're prepared, mistakes aren't so costly.
Well, and in these things, like these like sports and things where you're really focused, it's like outcome oriented, right? Like you need to win, or in some sense, whatever win means, right? Normally what happens is you're going to be against someone who's as capable as you, right? So take the context of hockey, right? So if you're in the Stanley Cup final, both teams are really good, right? So the team that wins a lot of the time would be the team that makes the fewest mistakes.
That's very true.
So if that's the situation, and then you can do these things and have these little habits of how you do things in order, then the likelihood of you making a mistake is less.
Yep.
Right? And then if the likelihood of making a mistake is less, then you'll make less mistakes. And then you might be the team that makes less mistakes, and then you win. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And you can apply it to a bunch of things, right?
Yeah.
So people that are outside of either elite sports or some kind of elite, whether it's combat or whatever it is, they don't really have that framework. So another criticism I've been getting online is, like, is that necessary? Like, you don't need to be like that. And that's like something that people will say a criticism, right? Yeah. And what my kind of rebuttal to that is like, okay, but are you worse off?
Yeah.
Like, the worst case scenario of that is either you're the same, like it doesn't make a difference, or you're better off.
Yeah.
Right. Adopting these kind of practices for yourself. Right.
Yeah. It's like, but that's the thing with coaching. You take it for what it is. Like, it's a thing. You have to come in with your mask on. You have to play hockey with a helmet.
Mm-hmm.
You forgot my helmet. Well, then you don't get to play.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's pretty much that simple to me. Right. I don't think it's a problem at all. But again, this comes down to the emotional toughness. Is how do you take information? If you're going to get, because we're in a tough environment, like it is. I mean, hockey's a little more harsh than a lot of places. I would agree with that. But the thing, wow, am I cold right now?
Yeah, it's cold, man.
Wow. But the thing is, it's how you take information. If you said to me, hey, dummy, you need to bring your mask, I would take it as, yeah, I forgot my mask. I wouldn't take it personal. I forgot my mask. That's exactly what happened. Yeah. And it's the same thing in hockey, right? When you have a task to do, the coaching piece, like a coach can come up to you and say, hey, Eric, when you're making that play, I need you, like, or let's say you got a defensive zone, I need you to be in the high slot to cover a point, and you weren't there. If I say, okay, this is you need to be here, that's not beating you up. That's not negative. That's what your job is, and I'm telling you what to do. I don't have to say, hey, Eric, I know you're trying real hard, but the next time you're out there, could you maybe, I'd like it. I love you. I love you so much. But this would be better if you're 10 feet over, a little higher with your stick in this position. If you can.
Yeah.
But
your way's good too.
Yeah. But your way's good too. But yeah, but like if you can, that's not coaching.
Right.
That's you're not helping someone.
It's not life. It's not real life.
Right.
And so these kids, when they, I guess the lesson that we're trying to kind of circle around is, you need to be, like you said, you need to be able to handle the information that's coming to you, and you need to be able to chop off whatever emotional thing is coming up for you and extract, okay, what am I actually being told right now, right? What is actually the thing that I need to take out of this? And it's tough to do in the moment, right? It takes that self-awareness that we always talk about to be able to do that self-analyzation of what's going on. Analyzation, is that a word?
Analyzing.
Self-analyzing?
Self-analysis.
Self-analysis, that's right. And then you can move forward take that piece of information, integrate it, move forward,
Yeah.
But you need to be able to handle that.
Dr. Nowitzki said it best. I said, I was explaining one time where I felt like my confidence was taken away. He goes, no, your confidence was not taken away. said, well, I felt like it was. But he said, no, you are responsible for your own confidence. He goes, it's confidence is just a matter of interpreting information. Because if you attach an emotion to instruction or criticism, then that's what will make you feel like you've lost your confidence. Because remove the emotion, take the information. If you take the information, just take the information and take it for what it is. No emotion involved, then there's nothing to lose or gain, or maybe there's something to gain because you'll do it properly.
Yeah, that's actually awesome.
Yeah.
I wanted you to touch on maybe on the coaching side of it now. So especially when you're dealing with young kids, how that they take despite what we say or what we try to teach them, kids are going to take the information personally. They're going to not react well to it. They're going to, all those things. So what would you say to a coach? Like going into a situation, like how to make them better communicators without, obviously you're not saying, hey, coddle them, whatever. No. Like what would the advice be, and like how to communicate that with kids that might be a little more sensitive? Yeah,
age appropriate. The first thing is when you're coaching, not everybody's the same. Obviously when you get to higher levels, that changes, but not everybody's the same. If you're going to be a good coach at a higher level though, but you should understand people, and there's some people handle things differently. But that's at a different level. When you're younger, I think the first thing to understand is that we're here to have some fun. So depending on the level, the fun, it's still fun, but there has to be some lights went off again. I think we just have to move. There we go.
Circle.
But you have to, like, you look at your kids and you got to understand that they are kids. Their brains aren't fully developed. They are emotional. You don't know what happened in their day and stuff like that. So at that level, you have to make sure that fun is number one, and winning hockey games isn't the end all be all. But having said that, you have to explain, because your job is your job is coaching hockey. So you should have some
teaching
hockey. So if I was to say, Eric, that back check that you just had, you have to come back. You got to come back harder because, give a reason, because your team needs you to back check hard. That's how that's important. Yeah. You don't yell and scream. That wouldn't be the great thing, but you just point out what they're doing. And, it's pretty much that simple, right? There's no other way to say it. If the kid thinks that if you see a kid has taken it emotionally the wrong way, you pull him aside and you say, hey, listen, Eric, I wasn't mad at you. I was just teaching you how to play hockey so you can be the best hockey player you can be. And if that player just can never take anything like that, that's probably, it's not really the coach's fault. It's not really a coach's problem, but I think it's important in minor hockey, even at a major midget, minor midget level, that you have some sort of velvet on the sledgehammer. You shouldn't be there like with your arms crossed, eyes crossed, ears crossed, nose crossed, mad at everything. Yeah. Because you are there to make the kids better people. But part of making people better is to teach them the lessons, to teach them what they've done right or wrong. Like, so in wrong or better means instruction. Yeah. The thing is as a player, if the coach is talking to me, at least in my opinion, at least I'm doing something. Right. At least good. Some attention is better than none at all. So I want the coach to give me feedback if I want to get better. Yeah. But anyways, as a coach, I think it's common sense, but maybe it's not. I don't know. I think you have to kind of know your guys. Like, there's certain kids that I know that I know they're a little maybe insecure about things, and I'm aware of that. So I want to say, like, let's say someone's overweight, a little bit overweight, and they struggle to be fast. I know that there's going to be things that they do to overcome that because it's their own insecurity. So if a player's overweight, and I know we're doing a drill where they're going to get, they're challenged speed wise, I'm going to look for the cheating. I'm going to notice because they're going to cheat because it's an insecurity. They got to find a way. The cheating doesn't help them in hockey though. So there's one way to handle it. I could say, I could ream him in front of everybody or by himself and say, all you do is cheat. You're a cheater. You don't do things right. You're not honest with yourself, blah, 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 blah. I could say it that way. I don't know if that's helpful. Right. But I could say maybe in a group setting, if it's bothering me, that, guys, be honest in your effort. In this drill, it's going to be let's say it's a D drill, and the D is going to get challenged. I could say, D, you're going to get challenged on this drill, and you're probably going to get burnt a few times because you're at a disadvantage. But the point is not to win the battle. The point is to do it completely so that you're working on a skill.
Right.
So you're going to have to work on your feet and give them the coaching cues that'll make them better. If it's lights are really going out here. Now, I could take that same individual and say, okay, here's something that I've noticed. I think what I've noticed is when we're doing drills, let's say we're doing a skate at the end of the practice. I notice that you're trying to make up for your lack of speed by getting a head start or maybe not stopping. You turn instead. You find a way to blend in so it's not so obvious. And I said, I can see it as a coach.
Yeah.
And I see it as a coach and it's hurting you. So what I want you to do is I want you to give an honest effort. And no matter what you do, if you come in last, if you're giving me an honest effort, I'm going to be happy with that. Now, the flip side of that, if this kid's overweight, let's say, I could also say, as your coach, I don't have to say, hey, you're fat. Yeah. But what I could say, and I've said this before, is that you need to work on your feet, your quickness, your speed. So you could maybe figure out a way to do that.
Yeah, and what does that mean?
Yeah. What does it mean? Read between the lines because it's a nice way of saying it, and they know.
Yeah.
Right? They know.
Yeah, they know.
So that's the nice way to say it, and a positive way to say it. And if the parents and the kids came back and took that the wrong way, I really don't know a better way to do it.
Right.
Because I think you're being honest and you're giving them instruction, and it's the truth.
Right.
So I could say, no, I love that you cheat. It's good that you cheat. Yeah. That's not helping.
Or ignoring it. That's
ignoring
it.
Yeah. Exactly, because you got other people that you're accountable to in this game. It's not tennis.
Right.
You're accountable to other people, and it's the truth. You say you want to do something, I'm helping you do it. Yeah. So these are the issues. You cheat. You're looking at ways to make it easier. You don't want to do the work, and you're overweight. So we have to fix those few things. So the cheating part, let's just say, I want an honest effort. Give me an honest effort. I'm going to be happy with that. Whatever else I said, but if it's losing weight, you say it in a nice way, or you can be direct. Yeah. But there's ways to do it to be polite. Right. Now, as you get older, in junior, if you come in 20 pounds overweight, the coach isn't going to say, I feel you need to work on your speed. The coach is going to say, well, you're 20 pounds overweight, son.
You're cut.
You're cut.
Yeah.
You don't make it. Well, why? Take your shirt off.
Yeah.
Right? And that is the way it is. There's no excuses. You need to know. So anyways, but the thing is, it's not about, now, is that extreme? Does that seem harsh? Some people, you might get a message on that saying, well, you shouldn't fat shame people. And I use that as an example.
Yeah, whatever.
I just use it as an example.
No,
okay, let's go the opposite. Let's go a different way then. Let's say the kid, there's several kids that go through this. You're 16 years old. You haven't hit puberty to the max that some other people have. And you've got a kid that's 5'8", or 5'7" and 135 pounds, and he's going into a corner, he loses those battles. Well, that's another thing, right? And maybe he's a little bit shy, so you have to address that.
Yep.
It's okay. I know you're small, but I hope you don't take that the wrong way. But you say things like you need to work on your strength. It's not saying you're too small, because that's a negative thing. And the other thing is that you don't point out. You don't point out, I was thinking about it earlier. You don't point out the person, you point out the issue, right? So if I was to say, I'm just trying to think. If a kid makes a bad pass over and over, you don't say you're shit. Yeah. You don't know how to pass. Yeah. You work on your passing is the right way. You put it into the action, not into the person. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I know I didn't explain that real well.
No, that's
but it's
right.
a way. It's not the person's a jerk. It's just, or the person is a bad person. It's the skill that needs to work on, or the.
Yeah. Well, I got a couple things on that, but touching on that last point, there was a kid last 2 weekends ago. We were talking about like the slow decision making. Yeah. Right. And.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, right. So the one way you can do it is you can go and be like, dude, how are you not making that pass quicker? Right. Like, what is the deal? Right? That's one way to say it. Or you can say, hey, you see that play that's open, you make it. Right? You see it, you make it. You see it, you make it. Yeah. That's what you need to do so that we can get that puck up ice quick. Yeah. Right? That's a way to say your decisions are slow, man. Like it's the same thing, but you're putting, 100%. Like you said, velvet on the sledgehammer, right? Yeah. And that's kind of what you're talking about. Don't point out.
And sometimes it needs to be direct, though, because if you tell someone over and over, it's like you need to make that pass.
Right.
But another way that you can do this also is ask them. Like, especially in youth hockey. What did you see there?
Yeah,
because I've done that with Charlie.
Really
I've
good strategy.
That with Charlie. I said, what made you make that decision? And that might be from a good play or a bad play, but he can explain something that you didn't see from your level, and he might be wrong.
Yep.
And he might be making an excuse, but at least they're speaking and they're explaining it.
Well, I think that's probably the best strategy, because now you're forcing them to think about it.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of what the best situation is, because you're making them try to understand why they made the decision they made, and then if it's the wrong one, they'll be able to undress why they made it and do something else next time.
Exactly.
Instead of just you barking commands and them not knowing the why, right? Because that's always such a huge thing.
Yeah.
Why did you do this? Understanding that, and then you can make the same decision or a different decision because you understand the reason behind it, right?
Yeah.
Which is good. But I wanted to touch on a couple things. You said about honesty. Mm-hmm. That's probably the best thing as a coach to have, and that doesn't mean be a dick. That's not what that means.
No, you don't have to be a dick.
Yeah, but being honest, framing things in order to get the honest answer out, that's a really good strategy, and that takes the ability of communicating effectively, right? Yeah. So as a coach, like you're talking about, these are really nuanced things that you're talking about, how to talk to certain kids, the way to package the message, all these things. And if you're a coach, you need to develop those skills, especially in minor hockey when the kids are young and they're going to take things emotionally, right? You need to be able to relay, or even if you're a parent and you're trying to relay a message to your kids.
You know what's hard though? It took me a while to do this because I was always, if you've never been like, this is funny too. If you've never been benched and embarrassed, you'll never know what this feels like. But I remember playing my first year in the OHL, and my first couple games I played great. Thought I fit right in. Third game, one shift, and I was literally sitting on the bench going, like, did you forget about me? Like, and just fighting tears, and probably didn't fight them. Like, it was so bad, and that feeling sucks.
Right. Where
someone doesn't explain anything to you, right? So yeah, when you're coaching, it's like you should find a way, because so it took me a few years to be completely honest with people. So I'm honest. I'm honest as a day as long as someone asks me a question. But I've learned how to say it with a little velvet on the sledgehammer. Yep. So for example, if someone's just not good enough, I won't just say you're just not good enough, because that's not up to me. That's up to them. And it's hurtful. So I try not to hurt people's feelings, but I would say there's a gaps in your game that you really need to get better to get to the next level. And I'll give them 2 or 3.
Right.
And that's one way, but you can always be truthful.
Yeah. And that's what I'm like,
because you don't want to give information that, oh no, you're doing really good.
No.
And you're good to go. And then the draft comes, or you get cut from a team or something. It's like, well, coach said.
Well, then you're not doing your job, right? When you're the coach. Their job is to teach them, right? And that is what you're supposed to do. And framing things honestly, like, it would be great if the junior coaches and pro coaches were great communicators, but sometimes you don't get that. No. But what we're saying here is, especially in minor hockey, when they're just really young and they're going to be emotional and take things personally because they don't know any better, you should really take pride in trying to be a good communicator and trying to communicate effectively and talking to the kids and making sure they understand what they're doing. And that's what you can do in this situation to try to make sure that the kids can take these messages, right? Yeah. And you can even talk to them like how we're talking. Like, this isn't I'm not criticizing you as a person. Like, we're just talking about hockey, right?
I want you to be a better hockey player. And you always use that. Always use that. I want you to be the best you can be. I say that all the time. I want you to win, man. I want you to win the game of life. I want you to, at the end of this thing, I want you to say that coach was great because he taught me so much.
Yeah, for sure.
And you know what? He actually told me what I was doing wrong. The biggest thing about, well, you've seen this with our camps. Kids come to our camps and they're 14 years old. Maybe for the first time they come to a camp and they've been there for 2 hours. And they say, I learned more in 2 hours than I learned my whole life in hockey. Yeah. That's what they say.
It's like common.
It's what they say. Yeah. I've learned more this week than I've learned in my whole life of hockey. I can't wait to come back because they're learning. I truly believe that kids that play hockey want to get better. They do. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they don't want to do the work, and that's part of, not the problem, but that's why it separates the wheat from the chaff, if that's a thing. Yeah. But the kids want to get better. So being a coach, I think it's if you can get the message out, great. But if you don't, the kid has to take responsibility for what's the coach actually saying to me. Right. And because I know they want to get better. Yeah. Because if I can show you one thing that's going to make your game better, you're going to want that.
Right. Well, and that's why I like playing like both sides here, from the player's perspective and the coach, because both sides are valuable. And like you said too, sometimes as the coach, like, some kids just aren't reachable. Like, sometimes you can do the best you can. Yeah. and the kid still won't listen. The kid still is going to take it personal and throw a temper tantrum and not listen and whatever. And those are issues beyond hockey. That's just beyond your scope. Yeah. But what you can do, what you can control, you should try to do the best you can to relay those messages, because you know that kids have a hard time handling criticism for the most part, right now at least.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? So if you're the player, make sure you're not attaching so much emotion to it, or try to the best you can. And if you're the coach, understand that that's what you're going into when you're talking to your players, and then you can make adjustments in how you're delivering the message, like you were saying, right?
Yeah. So, and just for the record, coaches can't win.
No, never.
No, I'm being honest. Like, coaches can't win. I mean, and I'm not anyone's hockey coach anymore. I'm the trainer. And you know what? I try my absolute best to treat everybody the same. Of course, there's personalities that I just get along with better than others, and some kids rub you the wrong way, but can't interfere with what you're teaching them. And you try to teach everybody the best you can and give them everything you can. I want them to actually win. But the one thing that is very frustrating is when a parent calls and questions, you know, how come, like basically saying you hurt my kid's feelings, or why this, why that. It's like, it's never hurtful. We're trying to help, and you have to help your kid. Because I've done it with my son, and that's why I can say this. I do it with my own kid. You know, he's had coaches say things, and I said, well, what's the point? Why you just want to cry? You want to bitch about it? Like, he's telling you something. And I don't care if it's right or wrong.
Yeah.
You know, one coach, it was in the last year, he had ridiculous amount of goals, getting tons of points, and the coach told him that he needs to start producing. Not the head coach, another coach. So you need to start producing. Charlie goes, Dad, like, what an idiot. I go, yeah, what an idiot, but what's the message? He goes, I don't know. I go, I don't know either. Produce. Yeah. Who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? I yelled there.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
So what? Maybe he was trying to motivate you. Maybe he wasn't. Maybe he was jealous. Like, there's all kinds of reasons they do it, but as a player, who cares? Just if you're the top scorer, maybe there's something else you need to be better at. But whatever, he said, produce. Okay, produce. Yeah. Make sure you're producing then.
Yeah. No.
You can't shut up.
That's good, man. That's good. We got a couple minutes. Anything you want to kind of leave off on?
No. Find a way to leave your emotions out of it. That's all. That's coaching is coaching. It's not putting the diaper on with baby powder. That's not what coaching is. If you're always expecting something to be nice and fluffy, then you're not getting quality coaching. Sometimes you're not going to necessarily hear things you want to hear, and that's a good thing, because you don't get better. You get better by finding deficiencies and making them better. And as a player, if you have a coach that is pointing things out, take the information. Like, there's probably something to it. Right. Even if the coach doesn't know that much about hockey, there's probably something to it. So address it, but take the emotions out. That's the biggest advice I can get is if a coach tells you something that sounds really negative or very harsh, remove the emotion, listen to the message, and can you learn from that? Can you take that information? And if you can, you're going to be better off for it. And if you're emotionally scarred from it, then it's actually on you. Like, what I say to you, Eric, if you're offended, it's actually not my fault. That's you. That's on you. That's something inside you. Yep. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So that's an insecurity that you have. And maybe it cuts deep because it might be true.
Yeah, and you still might be an asshole.
Oh, 100%.
But it doesn't matter.
But if it offends you, it's not my problem.
Exactly. 100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and that's what I would say is let coaches coach. Coaching is good. You're getting noticed. You're getting talked to. You're getting attention, and take the message without crying about it or getting too happy about it. If a coach tells you that's the opposite, right? If a coach tells you had a great game today, don't take that as the end all be all. What does it mean? Yeah. Nothing. There's another game tomorrow. Right, that one's over, and that's the key to mental toughness or emotional toughness as well. It's about the moment, and if you start hanging your laurels, is that a thing?
I don't know.
Resting your laurels on the past that would happen 5 minutes ago, it means nothing anymore. And if you're looking too far ahead, it means nothing because it may never come. Yeah. It's what can you do right now. That's what mental toughness is.
Awesome, dude. Well, we'll leave it on there. Okay. For the next one.
Okay.